Tesla owners sue Motorcycle Racing back in Northern Ireland. Average EV range in America 291 miles. Toyota hydrogen race car. Porsche new parts for old 911s. Germany's CO2 level up 0.7% for last year. Hello and welcome to this week's MotorZen. Tesla owners in California are suing Tesla, and they're saying that they've got a monopoly situation that is contrary to American law in regard to parts and servicing of Tesla vehicles. They're saying they're having to pay exorbitant prices for parts and service, and also they're having to wait very long waiting lists to get into the service centres. They're also saying that it's difficult, if not impossible, to get technical information from Tesla. All of these things are true, but Tesla is an unusual vehicle manufacturer in that it makes most of the parts itself. It doesn't use outside manufacturers to make most of its components. So this is another factor that makes it difficult for the aftermarket to service and maintain Teslas. Another story from Tesla is that they're dropping ultrasonic sensors. They're starting to build cars now without any ultrasonic sensors. They're going to totally rely on advanced driver aid system cameras. So what they're saying now is that they're going to, as a result of this, park assist and auto park, for example, are going to be temporarily not available on cars until they're happy that the cameras meets the standard of the sensors. And when that's the case, they're going to restore the park assist and auto park by an over-the-air update. So unusual situation that they're letting the cars off the line without ultrasonic sensors. They're disabling some items on the car until they make sure the cameras are good enough, and then they're going to reinstate those with an over-the-air update. Motorcycle racing is back in Northern Ireland. We reported about a month ago that motorcycle racing would not go ahead for 2023 in Northern Ireland. Well, the premium has come down a little bit. The premium had gone from 170 to 410,000, but also a big contributor to them managing to get back on the road literally again is that fans had set up a crowdfunding platform, and that generated £90,000, which was a big help to getting racing started in Northern Ireland. So everything's going ahead according to plan. May 7th to May 13th is the Northwest. Cookstown 100 is going ahead. Armagh is going ahead. Tandragee is not going ahead, but I think that was already agreed at the start of the year. But the crowdfunding has been a major assistance to getting this going from motorcycle racing fans and motorcycle racing fraternity. Range anxiety. We hear about this all the time. I suppose what I say to people is range anxiety is becoming less anxious because the range is becoming bigger. A report just out from the US states that the average range of all of the electric cars in America, the average range is now 291 miles. In 2011, it was 73 miles. And I suppose when I talk about electric to people, I usually talk about the rapid rate of development, the evolution of the technology. The Lucid Air travels the greatest distance on one charge as far as a production car on the market is concerned in America. It does 516 miles on one charge, but there are 5 vehicles that take 70% of the market share in America that do 309 miles on average. And there are 3 Tesla models, the Y, the 3 and the S. There's the Mach-E and there's the Chevy Bolt. They all travel an average of 309 miles on one charge. But then the game changer in this regard is coming, because solid state batteries are being developed and they're going to be safer, they're going to charge faster, they're going to be more energy dense than lithium. So again, if you look at the evolution from 2011 to today, and you put even a fraction of that evolution into the next 5 or 10 years, you can start to see that electric is becoming viable. Toyota, we spoke about them last year. about introducing Corolla into Japanese race championship. It's an internal combustion engine using hydrogen. Well, they've had a very successful run up to now. This weekend just gone, they've had to withdraw the Corolla from a race in Suzuka due to a fire they had incurred during testing. They've worked out that the fire was due to a hydrogen pipe that came loose in the engine bay. They're saying the only reason it came loose is due to vibration. It's not a big deal. They have a leak detection system built into the car. It worked. It shut down the system. Yes, there was some fire damage because that pipe was very close to the engine and there was a fire around that, but the system reacted correctly and shut down the supply. But also what they were doing with this car was they were testing. The test was conducted with new liquid hydrogen. So they're trying out the liquid hydrogen. It's the next stage in development, liquid rather than gas. So the massive issue here is that it's reduced volume needed. You reduce down the volume, you need to store the fuel. So they're experimenting with this concept now. The big issue with this is cryogenic cooling, how to keep that liquid cool. That's the technology that they're trying to develop with this. So again, the headline might look bad, but again, it's simply a coupling came loose in the engine bay, which could have happened with a petrol vehicle just as easy. Little bit of fire damage, so they weren't able to get the car prepared for the race, and that's the only reason they withdrew. So that development is coming along quite well. Porsche are going to start supplying new crankcases for old 911s. Magnesium crankcases for 911s from 1968 to 1976. Traditionally, if you had issues with those crankcases, you had to try and get a used one, which is becoming increasingly difficult, or try and weld the cracks, which didn't really stand up over time. They had to work with old drawings in order to recreate the crankcases, and they also interviewed former staff and current staff about the design details. So there was a lot of work had to go into figuring out exactly how to redesign this crankshaft within the company. But again, interesting to see manufacturers putting time and effort into producing parts for old cars. This is becoming increasingly common now, where the manufacturers are starting to get in on the action on the classic and vintage area as well. Again, in the last week or two, when we reported it last week or the week before about Germany and Italy and some other European countries joining up to oppose the ban on internal combustion engines. Interesting news this week is that Germany has increased its CO2 output last year by 0.7%. That's for car, truck, ship and plane. The output went up by 0.7%. They say that Germany needs to reduce its CO2 output by 6% per year, or it's going to miss its 2030 climate change targets. But that's the irony. The irony is that last week we reported a story where Germany's fighting against Europe to not impose the ban on internal combustion engines. But this week the news is that Germany is exceeding its CO2 emissions. So two contradictions occurring there in Germany. Another situation is that also news this week comes from BMW. They're working on new generation engines. They're looking to develop new petrol and diesel engines, 4, 6 and 8. So interesting activity taking place in Germany, which is contrary to the general mood or the general direction that things have been going in the last number of years. That's it for this week. Again, if you could like, comment, subscribe, and anybody you know in the trade that might be interested in some of the stuff we're doing here, make sure to try and just share it on to one person if you could. Great, see you next week. Thanks for that.